The entire facility trembles as a colossal explosion tears through the ceiling, creating a gaping hole that rains debris and dust. Nearby structures crumble under the shockwave, leaving everyone within the underground auction house sealed off by a familiar green barrier. Above, we spot the legendary Mago and his apprentice Lupus Allen, a summoning-type ability user. It turns out Mago is here to train Lupus in controlling her summoning powers. Amid their sparring, their attention shifts to two young siblings below, who reveal themselves as summoners and plead to join Mago's tutelage. Intrigued, Mago considers taking them on, despite Lupus's reservations. Testing their abilities, Mago asks the siblings to summon something. Without hesitation, they conjure angels and demons, an impressive feat for such young summoners, as most children can only summon simpler objects. Recognizing their potential, Mago extends his mentorship to them, sparking a journey that would shape their lives over the next 3 years. Under Mago's guidance, the siblings learn the true potential of their powers. For summoners, imagination fuels creation, allowing them to bring forth anything they envision. Meal, with memories of a protective mother, naturally summons angels, while her brother, shaped by their father's cruelty, conjures demons. Mago encourages them to expand their imaginations, predicting that their unique perspectives could produce extraordinary results. The siblings dream of a world where good people ascend to heaven and the wicked are sent to hell, a vision inspired by their mother's simple wisdom. One day, Mago receives an urgent call from the Hero Association, reluctantly agreeing to help despite past grievances. The situation is grave, as an ominous figure rumored to be a powerful villain has been spotted in Finland. Mago realizes the severity of the threat and, with a heavy heart, prepares to leave his protégés. When he tells the siblings, they cling to him, begging him to stay. He reassures them, saying he'll be back eventually, but warns them that following him would be deadly. As a final gift, Mago enchants them with a protective symbol, telling them that those who see it will care for them. With a parting wish for them to grow up kind-hearted, he leaves, and the siblings retreat to a remote place, determined to become heroes worthy of Mago's legacy. For 2 years, they practice, studying right and wrong and emerging with a steadfast sense of justice. Upon returning to their hometown, they create a self-proclaimed utopia, enforcing a strict moral code inspired by their mother's teachings. In a bizarre twist, simple, childlike rules such as politeness and honesty become the basis for a brutal judgment system. They watch over the townsfolk with angelic and demonic squads, punishing those who fall short. With each act, they believe they're sending souls to heaven for purification. News of their twisted utopia eventually reaches the Hero Association, prompting Chairman Uteridai to take notice. However, only 3 rookie heroes respond to the call, eager for a chance to climb the ranks but skeptical about taking on mere children. One of them questions why this B1 mission is even on their radar, scoffing at the idea that 2 young kids pose any real threat. The chairman surprises them by revealing that these 2 are none other than Mago's apprentices. Seeing her unhinged behavior, the siblings are horrified but determined. The sister clutches her brother's hand, her face pale with fear. They warn Kyuthu to leave, telling her that they don't want to fight. But this doesn't faze Kyuthu in the slightest. She grins, spinning a blade between her fingers, and taunts them, saying she's only here to see just how powerful they really are and to prove she's still the superior apprentice of Mago. The siblings glance at each other, unsure of how to handle the situation. The sister, Meal, steps forward and calls forth her angelic summons, creating a circle of protective light around her and her brother. Kyuthu's grin only widens as she watches, clearly relishing the challenge. She begins summoning an arsenal of blades and sharp objects, spinning them around herself like a deadly storm, before sending them flying toward the siblings with a flick of her wrist. Meal's angelic guardians shield her and her brother, deflecting the sharp projectiles with radiant barriers. But Kyuthu's attacks don't relent, and soon the air is thick with glinting metal and streaks of light as their powers clash. In the chaos, Kyuthu's sadistic laughter echoes, her delight growing with each new assault. She taunts them mercilessly, mocking their fear and hesitation. Meal, trembling with exhaustion, tells her brother that they need to end this quickly. The brother nods, summoning a wave of dark, demonic energy that merges with his sister's angelic light, creating a swirling force that surges toward Kyuthu. Caught off guard by the intensity of their combined attack, Kyuthu stumbles back, with inhuman speed, She sliced the creature apart in a single stroke, her movements so swift the siblings barely registered what had happened. She flicked the blood off her blade, smirking. "Cute trick, but don't get cocky," she sneered. "You've got a long way to go before you can even think about beating me." The sister's face darkened with anger. She pointed a trembling finger at Kyuthu, her voice filled with venom. "You're a sinner. You're going straight to hell for this, and there's no doubt about it." Kyuthu just shrugged. "Maybe," she said nonchalantly, brushing off the accusation like a speck of dirt. "But at least I'm getting the chance to showcase my skills. You know how hard it is for a hero like me to let loose? In public, I'd get locked up for something like this. But thanks to you two and your little freak show of a town, I've got the perfect playground to go all out." Her grin widened as she raised her hands, summoning her ultimate creation, something she'd been dying to unleash. With a guttural roar, she conjured a massive cutter, so immense that the strain left her bleeding from her eye sockets and nose. The siblings watched in horror, unable to process the magnitude of her summon. For Kyuthu, this moment was pure bliss. The sheer scale of the cutter was unlike anything she'd summoned before, the culmination of her twisted imagination fueled by countless lives taken. She stared at the glowing blade in awe, her laughter spiraling into unhinged hysteria. "Magnificent," she whispered, blood trickling down her face. "Absolutely magnificent." But her moment of triumph didn't last. Just as she turned to savor the chaos, a dark shadow loomed behind her. Without warning, a demonic entity appeared, consuming her in a single grotesque motion. Her laughter was abruptly silenced, leaving only her outstretched hand as a grim reminder of her demise. The siblings froze, staring at the horrifying scene. The one responsible for Kyuthu's abrupt end was none other than the sister, her magic thrumming with a dark, unfamiliar energy. She had undergone a similar transformation to Kyuthu but wielded it with terrifying precision, ending the sadistic hero's rampage in a single stroke. The boy's jaw dropped as he stared at his sister, who was now trembling under the weight of her actions. Tears welled up in her eyes as she whispered, "I killed her." The brother placed a hand on her shoulder, his voice gentle but firm. "She wasn't human anymore. She was a demon. You did what you had to." A year passed since that fateful encounter, and the siblings had grown even more powerful, their utopia expanding into a grander yet darker version of their original vision. Despite their attempts to create their perfect world, the Hero Association flagged them as new threats. They were no longer the idealistic children they once were. They were now classified as level B2 villains, marked for containment in Ruculus prison. The news reached Mago, who broke into a cold sweat the moment he saw their faces on the villain registry. Confused and heartbroken, he demanded answers. "How did it come to this?" he asked, his voice shaking. Chairman Uteridai confirmed the worst. "It's true," he said grimly. "They're your former apprentices." Desperate to reconnect, Mago insisted on handling the situation personally, but the chairman immediately shut him down. "You're not getting involved in this case," he barked, his temper flaring. Mago's frustration boiled over. "What the hell are you talking about? They're my kids. I need to fix this." The chairman slammed his fist into the table, cracking it down the middle. "You had one job, Mago. One. You were supposed to kill the Swede on the spot and come back. But instead, you handed him over to the government alive." Alive! The tension reached a boiling point, and Mago squared up to the chairman, his voice cold. "You're a lunatic. All you care about is your authority. If you think I'm just going to stand by dash, enough." A calm but commanding voice cut through the argument. Captain Reyesa entered the room, her cape flowing behind her. "I'll take care of this," she announced. Mago glared at her but hesitated. Her voice carried a rare confidence, and as she approached, she placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Trust me, I won't let you down." Back in the siblings' utopia, the duo spotted an outsider entering their domain. Their frustration grew when they realized it was Reyesa, one of the greatest heroes. When she finally arrived, she addressed them with a solemn tone. "I'm here to bring you back." The siblings wasted no time summoning their monsters, making it clear she wasn't welcome. But Reyesa, with one devastating attack, burned their entire horde to ashes. She marched forward, her presence overwhelming. "You're kind-hearted children," she said softly, her voice tinged with sadness. "But your actions have hurt so many. If someone had guided you properly, none of this would have happened." Her words pierced their hearts. She extended her hand, her tone gentle but firm. "Release your control. Come back with me. Mago's waiting for you." The siblings hesitated, but her warmth reminded them of their mother. Slowly, they reached for her hand, tears streaming down their faces. And when they saw Mago waiting for them just beyond the city, they ran to him, crying out apologies for their mistakes. Reunited, Mago reassured them. "It's not too late," he said, his voice steady. "You can still be the good children you always wanted to be." For the first time in years, the siblings felt hope. As the old man watched the siblings resting, Rayesa approached quietly, her presence as calm and steady as ever. "Have you finished talking to them?" she asked, her tone carrying a note of sympathy. Mago turned to her, his expression serious. "Can you entrust them to me?" he asked directly. Rayasa's brows furrowed. "You know it's not that simple. They may not have killed anyone in the village, but they held thousands of people hostage. And let's not forget they killed a hero. It'll be hard for them to avoid the death penalty in court. They're just kids, Rayesa," Mago said, his voice firm but tinged with desperation. "They strayed from the right path, yes, but they've realized their mistakes now. If you leave them with me, I'll make sure they understand what they've done and help them change." Rayasa's expression softened slightly, but she shook her head. "Mago, it's not up to me. The law is the law." He wasn't ready to back down. "The law isn't always right," he countered. "They're too young to be executed. Surely you don't agree with the changes the association leader made to allow underage executions." Her voice grew somber. "I don't," she admitted. "I hate that law, but I can't go against it. A hero's job isn't to rehabilitate criminals, it's to uphold justice. Even if I understand your perspective, I'm bound by the rules." Mago took a deep breath, his mind racing. "If you're so determined to reshape the world," he said, locking eyes with her, "start here. Help me give these children a chance to grow into the people they were meant to be." Rayesa hesitated, her resolve flickering for a moment. "There's too much wrong with this world," she admitted softly. "That's why I need your help. If you work with me, maybe we can make things right together." "How does that relate to the siblings?" Mago asked, his voice laced with suspicion. Her gaze sharpened, her determination visible. "I need you to help me fix this broken system. If you agree, I'll make sure these kids aren't sentenced to death, at least not until they reach adulthood." Mago didn't miss the weight of her words but nodded. "Let me use my ability to protect them. If they're going to survive, they'll need it." Rayesa considered him for a long moment, then gave a small nod. "Fine, do it." Without hesitation, Mago cast a barrier around the siblings, a shimmering green dome, the same unbreakable shield that had once baffled even the strongest of heroes. As the light settled around them, Rayesa watched in silence, her emotions carefully guarded. Meanwhile, another observer, Gang Ho, stood nearby, his face unreadable as he processed everything he had just witnessed. Memories stirred in his mind, memories of introducing his own brother to Rayesa, a time when they had all been idealistic, eager to change the world. Snapping back to the present, Gang Ho rose to his feet, his towering frame commanding attention. Before he could speak, the young boy, one of the siblings, spoke up, his voice trembling but defiant. "We only judged people based on the rules we made. Isn't that what the law is? Just rules made by people in power." His question cut through the tension, leaving everyone silent for a beat. Then Rayesa stepped forward, her voice measured. "Laws are complicated," she began, choosing her words carefully. "But you have to understand what you did wasn't dash." Before she could finish, Gang Ho suddenly trapped her inside a crimson bubble, energy threads swirling from his hand. Rayesa froze, stunned, as he turned his attention to the terrified siblings. The siblings backed away, tears streaming down their faces as they begged for mercy. "Please don't hurt us," the boy cried, his voice breaking. "We're sorry. We know what we did was wrong." Gang Ho's imposing figure loomed over them, his fist clenched and trembling with raw power. The prison walls shook as he raised his fist, ready to deliver judgment. The siblings screamed, bracing for the end. But instead of striking them, Gang Ho drove his fist into the ground, the force creating a massive crater beneath them. Dust and debris filled the air as his frustration erupted in silence. The siblings trembled, staring up at him in disbelief. Even the warden, watching from the sidelines, looked horrified by the near miss. Gang Ho's expression was a storm of conflicting emotions: anger, regret, confusion. As he wrestled with his thoughts, the moment was shattered by an unexpected turn. Without warning, the siblings' bodies were ripped apart, their remnants scattering like torn paper. Everyone froze. The perpetrator stepped into view, a woman with an unsettlingly cheerful demeanor. She radiated an air of delusion as she admired her handiwork. "Finally!" she exclaimed, clapping her hands together. "Now, Gang Ho, we can be together." The siblings' remains drifted around her as she turned to face the stunned hero. "Ah, don't look at me like that," she teased. "You're even more handsome in person. This was meant to be, my dear husband." Gang Ho's jaw tightened, his shock quickly giving way to disgust. "Who the hell are you?" he demanded, his voice sharp. "Oh, silly me," she giggled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Sinka, and I'll be the eve of a new mankind." Gang Ho's patience snapped. He swung a powerful punch at her face, but before it could connect, a man stepped in front of her, taking the full force of the blow. To everyone's surprise, the man survived, barely flinching. He straightened himself and adjusted his collar, turning to Gang Ho with a smirk. "You should learn some manners," the lackey said. Sinka scowled at her subordinate. "Canis, stop being rude to my future husband," she snapped. "He'll be your master soon enough." Canis quickly bowed, muttering an apology. Sinka beamed before turning her attention back to Gang Ho. "Now, where were we? Oh, right. I was about to explain how I'll reshape humanity. It's all very exciting." Gang Ho, exhausted beyond belief, let out a long sigh. "You've got to be kidding me," he muttered. "First the siblings, now this crazy lady. What the hell is going on?" Hearing this, Sinka frowned. "Crazy? Me? Oh no, I'm the sanest person here," she declared proudly. Her lackeys nodded enthusiastically, like bobbleheads on a dashboard. Gang Ho simply closed his eyes, pinching the bridge of his nose. "I'm too old for this," he muttered under his breath, already dreading what came next. Sinka's tone grew more dramatic as she stepped closer, her eyes gleaming with unsettling conviction. "Mankind is in a dire situation," she declared, her voice laced with urgency. "They're degenerating, Gang Ho. Every day they're spiraling closer to extinction. If this continues, humanity will disappear sooner than you think." Gang Ho rubbed his temples, visibly exhausted by the nonsense pouring out of her mouth. "What are you even talking about?" he muttered, utterly bewildered. She smiled sweetly, ignoring his disbelief. "You're part of the Hero Association, right? Specifically, equality. Let me guess you think villains are the real threat to humanity. Or maybe you think it's the fault of past heroes with too much power." She wagged a finger at him, her tone condescending. "But you're wrong. Entirely wrong." Gang Ho facepalmed again, this time harder. He let out a groan of pure exhaustion. "You've got to be kidding me." Sinka wasn't kidding. She continued, undeterred. "The true problem isn't villains or rogue heroes. It's the ordinary people with no powers. They're the real disease eating away at mankind. They've multiplied like rats, diluting the gene pool with their weakness, and now they outnumber the strong. Do you have any idea how unnatural this is?" Gang Ho's hand dragged down his face, his patience wearing thinner by the second. "I don't have time for this crap," he muttered under his breath. But Sinka was already moving on. "Think about it," she pressed. "People with superior genes have made countless sacrifices to protect the weak. But what's the result? The inferior ones keep breeding while the strong heroes like Raesa and the second-generation equality team are the ones who die early, even though they should have thrived according to nature's law." She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. It's only natural, you know? Those who aren't chosen by evolution should go extinct. But heroes interfered, trying to stop what's supposed to happen. And look where that got us. Gang Ho was done. Completely done. His eyes screamed, "Why is this my life?" He looked away, muttering something under his breath that sounded suspiciously like, "I need a drink." Thanks for watching, guys. Comment Flamingo and subscribe for the next part.